Tarek was just a little boy living in a small apartment in Lagos with his parents. He had a small toy car that he held tightly, especially when he was scared, and most nights he was very scared. His father Laziel would shout and hit his mother Elephant. The noise, the pain, the crying, it all happened right in front of Tarek. He would hide in a corner, holding his toy, eyes wide, his heart hurting. He wanted to help his mother, but he was too small, too weak. All he could do was watch and cry quietly but deep inside. Something started to grow, a strong feeling that one day he would be strong enough to stop it. 11 was a bright young woman with big dreams. She had just entered university in Lagos. The boy who watched in silence. When she met Laziel, he was tall, handsome, and full of charm. The way he spoke, the way he smiled, it was like he knew how to make anyone feel special. He told her she was beautiful, smart, different from every other girl. At first 11 laughed and blushed. She thought she was lucky to have met someone like him. They started dating. Laziel would walk her to class, bring her food, and call her every night to say he loved her. Friends warned her that he seemed too intense, too fast, too much, but she didn't listen. She was in love. When he proposed after graduation, she said yes without thinking twice. She believed she was walking into a happy, loving marriage, but the moment they got married, everything began to change. The sweet Laziel she had fallen for slowly disappeared. He started getting angry at small things. If Elian laughed too loudly, he would frown. If she went out with friends, he would accuse her of cheating. He wanted to know where she was every second of the day. He took her phone, stopped her from working, and told her it was because he loved her too much. At first Elvin made excuses. He's just stressed. Maybe I should try harder. But things kept getting worse. Laziel started yelling at her, breaking things around the house. One night during a small argument, he slapped her. 11 was shocked. She held her cheek, staring at the man she once loved, but he didn't look sorry. He just walked away as if it meant nothing. That night she cried silently beside her sleeping son, Tarek. Her heart was broken, but she told herself it was just a mistake. She stayed. Days turned into months. The slaps became punches. The insults became louder. Laziel didn't even try to hide it from their son. 11 would cook, clean, and beg for peace, but it was never enough. Laziel controlled everything, what she wore, what she said, even when she could sleep. It was like living in a cage, a beautiful cage built with fake promises and broken dreams. Outside, people still thought Laziel was a perfect husband. He smiled in public, gave big speeches at events, and posted pictures of a loving online, calling her his queen. No one knew that behind those smiles, Elian was dying. Inside, she had no one to talk to. Her family didn't believe her. He's providing for you, they said. Just be patient. But patience didn't stop the bruises. Patience didn't stop the fear in Tar's eyes every time Laziel raised a mother's pain and a son's vow. His voice one day after Laziel beat her so badly that she couldn't get out of bed. Elian looked at herself in the mirror. Her lip was bleeding, her eyes were swollen, and something inside her finally snapped. She whispered to herself, "This is not love, this is not life." That moment changed everything. It was the beginning of a dangerous decision. She knew leaving Laziel wouldn't be easy, but staying would kill her and maybe even her son. So she started to plan quietly, carefully. She didn't know where it would lead, but she knew one thing for sure: she had to escape before it was too late. The evening started like any other, but it quickly spiraled into a nightmare that would haunt them forever. 11 was in the kitchen preparing dinner. After a long day, Tar sat at the table coloring quietly, while Laziel lounged on the couch, flipping through the TV channels. A simple disagreement. Nothing serious, just a comment about the way she cooked the rice, something small and meaningless, but Laziel's eyes darkened, his jaw tightened. Elephant tried to calm him, but it was too late. She knew that look, the look that told her his anger was about to explode. "Why can't you ever get it right?" Laziel snapped, his voice rising. "Is it so hard to make a proper meal?" Elian, her lip trying to stay calm, trying to avoid making things worse. But Laziel wasn't listening. His words became sharper, cutting deeper until his rage was boiling over, and before she knew it, his fist flew across her face. Tarek froze. He didn't understand what was happening, but he knew it was bad. He crouched low in the corner of the room, hoping he wouldn't be seen, his little heart pounding in his chest. He had seen his father hit his mother before, but tonight it was different. There was something darker, something more terrifying in the air. 11 fell to the ground, holding her cheek where the slap had landed. Laziel stood over her, his face twisted in fury. "Pathetic," he spat, kicking over a chair in his rage. "You can't do anything right." The sound of love and sobs filled the room, but it didn't stop. He struck her again and again, each blow more violent than the last. Tarek's small hands clutched the edge of the table, tears streaming down his face, but he didn't dare move. He was just a 6-year-old boy, powerless to stop the man who was supposed to protect them. The room seemed to spin, the shouting, the slapping, the crashing, sounds it was too much for Tarek to take in, too much for his young mind to comprehend. All he could hear were the words that he would never forget. I hate you. Tarek's sobs were silent, swallowed by the chaos around him. He wanted to run to his mother, wanted to make it stop, but his little legs wouldn't move. His mother's cries tore through him like a knife. Every punch, every scream, every moment felt like it would break him too. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Laziel stopped. He stood over Elian, breathing heavily, his chest heaving for a moment. There was silence. Then, with a final sneer, he walked out of the room, leaving her lying on the floor, broken and bruised. Tarek waited in the shadows, his heart racing, his body trembling. He had a new beginning. Seen too much, he had heard too much, he had felt helpless, unable to protect the one person he loved more than anything in the world. That night the world felt different. Tarek didn't sleep, he just lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what he had witnessed. He couldn't understand why his father would hurt his mother, why the man who was supposed to love her had become a monster. All he knew was that something inside him had shifted from that moment on. Everything changed for Tarek. The boy who once believed in fairy tales and love now carried the weight of a truth too heavy for a child to bear. The innocence of his childhood had been shattered, replaced by a burning desire to protect, to fight back, to make sure that no one would ever hurt his mother again. But for now, all he could do was lie in the darkness, his tears soaking into the pillow, and promise himself one thing: this wasn't over, not by a long shot. As TK grew older, the pain of that night stayed with him like a shadow. Every time he closed his eyes, he could still hear his mother's cries, see the terror in her eyes, and feel the helplessness in his own chest. But as the years went by, something inside him began to change. The boy who had once been afraid was starting to turn into someone stronger. At school, Tarek kept to himself. He did well in his studies, but it wasn't just for